in your heart. Look at what you've done. You've left messes everywhere. You've turned with everyone that you've known. Look at what you're doing now. Even as you stare at yourself in the mirror, you know your life is a train wreck. What are you even doing? Why are you wasting your time? Why are you wasting your energy and your emotional capacity on anything having to do with Christ? You are a failure. That's what the evil one loves to tell us. But you know what we can say? We don't have to argue. We don't have to say, no, don't say that. Don't talk to me like that. I'm not that bad. You know, the finite wisdom of the world is constantly telling us that we just need to tell ourselves that we're good enough and we're strong enough and gosh darn it, people should like me. And if they don't, it's their loss and we just need to move on with our lives. We don't need to think like that, do we? We can be honest. We don't have to argue with evil. We don't have to pretend like we're something other than what we are. We don't have to put on the flesh, on a new flesh or a different coat of paint and go out into the world to show off our veneer, knowing what's actually underneath it all. No, we can look the devil in the eyeballs and say, the truth is, I know myself well enough to know that I'm worse than you're saying I am. I'm not proud of that. I don't like that. I wish that wasn't the case, but the fact remains, and it's where I stand in Jesus' grace that is far greater and more powerful than my sin will ever be. My sin nature and my sins are great, but Jesus' righteousness is not my own, and the foundation of my justification is his righteousness and not my own, and it will not move, it will not be taken away. So you see what Paul is doing here? He's given this powerful weapon to us against the accusations of the world and the flesh and the devil. He's giving us the sure footing that we need to continue to bathe ourselves in the good news of the gospel. What makes God's grace shine in this verse is that it triumphs over everything. How? By providing a substitute righteousness. Because Christ was righteous for us, God can now justify us in spite of our many transgressions. Paul is strengthening our faith here, isn't he? He wants you to think something here, and really Paul wants you to feel something here. Think of the truth about the greatness and the grace of God and the free gift of righteousness that Christ provides for all who trust in him. And then you can feel the sweetness of God himself reminding us that the vast quantity of transgressions in our lives are no obstacle for him to justify us. Why? Because he's given us the free gift that restores order in the midst of chaos. And so where can we go from there? Well, Paul points us in our final point in verse 17 that when you have the free gift, you will reign in life and in the presence of God. Look again at verse 17. For if, because of one man's trespass, death reigned through that one man, much more will those who receive the abundance of grace and the free gift of righteousness reign in life through the one man, Jesus Christ. Paul just keeps going. He just keeps piling on the good news. I want to encourage you to read all of chapter 5 maybe this afternoon, and when you do, you'll see that Paul is just building and building and building his argument, and he really is piling on the description of blessing. And if you keep reading and you get into chapter 6, 7, and 8, you'll see it continues to build. And it gets all the way to chapter 11 where Paul is so overwhelmed by all this great news. He says, oh, the depths of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are your judgments. How inscrutable are your ways. Who has known the mind of the Lord? Who has been your counselor? Who's given a gift to you that you might be repaid? For from you and through you and to you are all things. Glory be to you forever and ever. Amen. And that is the cry of the heart who understands how good this news really is. And Paul just continues to build. And he starts right here in chapter 5. And Martin Lloyd-Jones, in his commentary on Romans 5, it's simply entitled Assurance. And hopefully you can see why. Paul doesn't want